17-year-old aspiring cop from Illinois has been charged with the murder of two in Kenosha during a protest that was protesting police violence and brutality that happened as a result after the 7-time shooting in the back of Jacob Blake. In this incident, what we see is a terrorist who was not from Kenosha, but was driven from another state, and was carrying a long gun, a lethal firearm, was caught recorded with the murders, and also stating that we do not have non-lethal force and that he's protecting property. There are reports that are saying that the instigating event was that as this terrorist, as I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to put him up on a pedestal at all. Because this guy is just plain and simple a terrorist, a murderer. It's a disgusting part of humanity. And I mean, I'm so livid in the fact of what happened here, because we all go out to protest for equal justice, for equal rights. And there are militia members that the police are allowing, and not only just allowing, but also accepting, inviting, and giving their thanks and their gratitude for their presence. So he goes into the crowd and reportedly overheard one of the protesters discussing that they were going to vandalize property. And so that gave him enough of an okay to say, here's my chance to now do extrajudicial killing and murder somebody. So he goes off, shoots somebody, kills them, and is chased by the crowd. While he's being chased by the crowd, he is then taken to the ground by a person with a skateboard who is literally just a hero trying to get the gun off of him. The gun is placed at his chest while he's having a skiffle with this individual. And his name is Anthony Huber, and he got shot as a hero and did die from the wound. Before I continue, because it's obviously a very emotional thing, knowing that, you know, myself and all of my friends are the type to go out and protest violence, especially here in LA, or just go out and protest our causes, because that is our First Amendment right. With that, Sky, I want you to take it away.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to try my best not to get so emotional, because this story gets me just so emotional. So, look, a lot of what they're not reporting, what the media does not want to report on is, first of all, prior to that awesome the awesome protester, right, that got killed. So prior to that, the cops actually, so I guess, you know, they were already aware that they were going to go and protest, of course, after obviously the Jacob being killed, right? And they are always scared of looting and so forth, right? And so I guess it wasn't enough for them. So they although they send military force, right? They called their militia friends, which I guess they have on speed dial. I don't know, like, how did they get their number? I don't even know how that process went, but they went and told them, hey guys, we need some help, come bring your big guns. And so this young man, although he's 17, but let's call it like it is, because if he was a black young man, a 17-year-old black person, he would have been tried as an adult. So let's just call it like it is. He's a young adult who went there. It seems like allegedly his mom drove him there, which is just crazy. Okay. Throw him there. He's a 17-year-old, not supposed to even legally own that gun, because you're supposed to be 18, right, to own a gun. So he illegally has that gun, right? The cops are like, hey, here you go. Please help us. Here's some water. Thank you so much. And there are recordings on that. And then he went on and protected, and it wasn't even his town, okay? He just went out there and just, you know, whatever, went out there and try to get involved in basically killing protests. And to your point, let's call it like it is. This is a threat to our First Amendment right. We have every right to protest, to peaceful protest. But what the Trump administration has been doing is that they've been sending military force. They've been beating those protesters. They've been macing these protests. They don't want. Trump wishes this was North Korea. He does not want us to protest. He wants us to stay home. But we shall continue resisting. That's unfair. That is. The right-wing conservatives, they are so hypocritical. You know why? Because they always talk about how Latinos come here illegally, right? Oh, they're supposed to get in line and come here all like legally, right? Just like everybody else and so forth, right? But what about this kid? You guys are staying quiet. As a matter of fact, I've seen videos online defending this young man, defending him that he was just protecting himself. Protecting himself from a skateboard? That's what you had, a big old AR-150 and you felt threatened by a skateboard? That's crazy. But there they go, defending this person. He was illegal what he did, okay? He didn't have any right to have that gun in the first place or to even be there. And the cops are in it. And you know what? I'm going to pause here for a little bit after this point, Chris. But you know what's so crazy to me, and I'm sure to everybody else, anybody that's color, is that he drove by the cops and he was like, he had just finished killing somebody. He drove by the cops. When Jacob just walked away to his car because he left his kids, because he actually did a good thing. He broke up a fight, Jacob. There was a fight. He did the right thing because I'm sure he had his kids in the car and his kids probably saw. I'm assuming this is my personal opinion. And his kids were like, he wanted to do the right thing as a good father that he was. Right?
Right.
He was just like, I'm gonna walk away. There's none of my business. I did what I had to do. Walked away, and you know what? That cop, his ego hurt him. He was like, yeah, you're not listening to me. I'm gonna shoot you 6 times because his ego hurt. That's what it was. Because you know what? It's a crime not to listen to cops, right? Because it is. It gets you killed if you don't listen to a cop here. Go ahead, because I'm.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, you're right. So that was originally what happened. There was that. The call comes in about women that are fighting. He's driving past with his family, with kids in the car, and he goes out there to try to break it up. There's video proof that he does not have a knife on him. In Wisconsin, the police officers don't have to have a video camera. They just have to have audio on. And so when they say like, "Oh, drop the knife. You have a knife. You have a knife," and who is the judge going to listen to? Are they going to listen to a police officer saying that, or when they're listening to the defendant? And so at least somebody actually was recording this to actually show he did not have a knife on him at that time. And you're absolutely right. And he gets shot in the back 7 different times from, just like you said, hurting a cop's ego was the only crime that he did. Whereas the 17-year-old, who, by the way, was an aspiring cop, and I want to get back to that because he actually was a one-time cadet. Like you said, he was able to walk right past them with the gun that he killed them with. And there were people saying at the time, he's the one who did the murder. He's the one that shot him. Yeah. And still they let him get away. He was able to go home.
They were following him. There was a crowd that was following him, trying to tell the cops, hey, it's him. He had just finished injuring, killing somebody. It's him. He's the one. Yeah. It reminds me of, I think, Tamir Rice, right? Where he got killed because he had a toy gun. Because that cop didn't even get out of his car. The cop just shot him from his vehicle because he felt threatened because he had a toy gun. But this young man, this terrorist, was able to just walk by the cops, right? And the cops are like, oh, it's all good. Hey, partner. That doesn't make any sense to me. This is an injustice. I wanted to bring light to the story because I want everyone listening, the injustice that people of color have to go through. This is so unfair. And it's, the cops remind me of the Democrats. You used to think cops are the good people, right? Yeah. No, they're as corrupted as Democrats.
Right. Like the rhetoric is to protect and serve, but actually it's just to protect and serve their own causes and their own ass. I mean, really, what you're saying right there, for me to expound on that, he probably would have been hired. See, the only problem that
and killed people legally, basically.
Absolutely. So the only problem that he did was killing people before he got the badge. Yeah. Because if he had the badge, then he'd be like, whoa, well, they did this, they did that, and well, he must be right. He's an officer. But I think in this case, the reason why the police were cool with it was because they probably are like fantasizing about being able to be like one of these militia members that can go out and kill them, but then they go, wait. Oh, it is such a perfect crime for the police to place them there as their pawns, to place these militia members as their pawns who've been brainwashed to think that, liberals and that people of color are their enemy for whatever reason, when we're all the same and we're all part of the working class fighting against the elites. I mean, not to get into anything else, I'll stop there. But the fact that that they are able to wash their hands clean of having this guy go in there into the crowd and terrorize people so then like you said, this will quell the people that want to go out and reform, do justice reform and go out and like here in LA, for instance. In LA, we did have one on Saturday. Luckily that was a peaceful protest, but there weren't that many bigger numbers. We need to have everybody out marching the streets for this. But they effectively did what they want to do, which is scare the crap out of people. If you go out there, there's crazies on the right that might kill you. So do you want to go out there? And then we don't go out there, and then nothing changes because there's no pressure. So I'm really glad to see, these sports teams and stuff, taking initiative and saying something's got to be done. Yeah, go ahead, because I have one last thing.
Absolutely. I think this is it is white supremacy embedded in not only in our constitution, but in our judicial system, right? In the police force. Obviously, they have these militias on speed dial, and they were able to call their buddies to help out, right? And what do these people think? These regular civilians, that the cops have their back like that? They have lawyers that they can just go ahead and be like, hey, they have. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, they're okay with extrajudicial killing in this country.
100%. And this story, I can it's so funny because Trump, well, he's a really good at just, PR. He is really good at spreading hate, and that's exactly what he's doing because he doesn't want anybody to go ahead and protest, right? Everybody always just takes away, they start talking about looting and stuff, right? But it's like they have looted us more than we can ever loot their businesses, because you know what, they lose their businesses, but you know what, we lose our lives. People of color lose their lives, and we can't get that back. You could get probably government funding, and you could go ahead and start a GoFundMe, just like the 17-year-old young man has already done for his lawyer fees. You could probably get a business back, but we can never get those lives back.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because that's what I was going to talk about, that even here in LA media. So for instance, I watched ABC 7 and what they were mentioning about it. And they actually did a pretty good job of like following the structure. Obviously not so much in depth, but letting you know what had happened, like, that this guy did do the shooting that was not justified. But then they still end the show showing that crowdfunding and showing the massive support that this terrorist got. At the time that they were showing it, it was about $80,000 that he got, and then ABC is proud to say, well, their position is that he's a hero, a patriot, and he's been treated unfairly, and he did it in self-defense. And so their only follow-up to that was that, but in Wisconsin officials, the Wisconsin officials in their next press conference had no response. Boom, it just ends and then goes, oh, if you want to, subscribe, blah, blah. They're not saying anything about like, oh, this is a result of Trump's rhetoric. This is a result of us, like, not having like the proper gun reform that we should have in this country. They're not mentioning like all of the stuff that's adding up to it and what kind of person it is. They should be saying he is not a patriot. He's not a hero. They should be mentioning how like the police let this guy in, but they're not saying any of that stuff. Patriot, what? Killing your own people, killing fellow Americans is patriotic while they're trying to fight for a more just, perfect union, which is our First Amendment right?
Yeah.
Come on. This means then that the media, even our media here in Los Angeles, is complicit to these crimes. Hell, maybe we can even try them. Because then the next thing, when you and I, when we go out to protest, injustice, it can happen to any one of us.
100%.
And what are they going to say and what are they going to do? And they're just going to be like, well, just like what you're talking about, look, we're just another number to them. They really do not give a crap about us. We are another number that can do work for them. And if we could do it on the cheap, they will keep doing it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And if we can't do it, they'll hire somebody from another country to do it. This completes their agenda. And, we got to put a stop to this. No, guys, here's my message here in LA. We need to continue to go out and march in the streets, and don't be afraid, or else, it's kind of like what they're saying. The terrorists win. This guy is a terrorist, and other militia members just like him are terrorists, and they're going to be, watch out, guys. They're going to be emboldened by this, aspiring cop who, like I said, he would have absolutely been hired, because these are the kind of people that they're hiring, and this is what we're fighting against. And he proved it here by going out there and killing. And what, minorities are the ones that are the issue. They're the ones that are violent. They're the ones that are criminals. Hello, we've already had right-wing protesters running over people before this, and this isn't the only shooting that's happened from a right-wing terrorist in this country. I think it is clear, and therefore, ABC, NBC, CBS, you guys got to start getting with the program and start letting the people know, because people aren't paying enough attention because they're trying to figure out how to survive during this pandemic. That's all I have to say on that.
That's all good. They don't have to watch it. Just watch YRLA. We're going to inform them the right way. Because this is terrible. They're so hypocritical. They talk about being patriotic and all that. It's only when it's into their favor. Because if they were patriotic, they would allow us to protest peacefully. They would protect us to make sure from a distance, right? Protect us, make sure that they're not looting and so forth. Okay, I get it, right? Protect us, make sure that we're not killing each other, and just let us protest, and then we could go ahead and go home, right? That's what they should, because that's part of the Constitution. They talk about being all patriotic. Come on, man.
Thank you. That's all I have to say about that.
I have a lot more to say, but I'm going to end it here. The part of this story I want everybody to grasp, but again, is that this young man killed protesters. There's nothing around that. He was protecting himself supposedly from some dude with a skateboard. Okay, because he was so spoiled, he didn't want to get hit. Oh no, not the skateboard on my face. He didn't want to get hit, and he was like, "I'm gonna take a life." And he was cool with it. You could just see he would have been a perfect candidate to be a cop. As a matter of fact, he would have definitely got the job. Thank goodness he. Well, actually, not really, thank goodness, because we lost a life, of course. But I'm just very glad that he's not going to be a police officer.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please tap the like, hit the bell, subscribe to us, and support us on Patreon if you want to join the cause to help us get corrupt bribes out of our nation's news media. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, this is your revolution.